So, Michael, could you explain Bhagavad Gita verses 625 and 626, which are actually Gita Sāram verses 27 and 28, which deal with the practice of self-investigation as explained by Sri Krishna?
Yes, that is Bhagavad Gītā Sāram. Bhagavan was asked to select some verses from the Bhagavad Gita. That is, the Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapters. I think it's about 700 or 800 verses. I can't remember. So it's a lot of. Some people memorize the whole Gita, but for most people, memorizing the whole Gita is difficult. So someone asked Bhagavan to make it easy to remember what the essence of the Gita is. Could he select some verses that encapsulate the message of the Gita, the essential message of the Gita? So Bhagavan selected 42 verses and arranged them in a particular order, and he translated them into Tamil. So two of the verses he selected are two very important verses. That is verses 25 and 26 of chapter 6. He translated these as verses 27 and 28 of Bhagavad Gītā Sāram. The verse 25, the verse is, the original is Sane Uparamed, Buddhiya Dhritigritya, Atma samsta manakritva na kinchitapi chintayat. Sane means gradually, slowly, gently, softly, calmly. It indicates that we need to take a steady but gradual and little by little, step by step approach. That is, we can't. The mind has been going outwards for so long. We can't expect all of a sudden to turn it back within and never let it come out again. We need to slowly. As Bhagavan said, Bhagavan often gave an analogy of a runaway cow. Bhagavan said, if a cow has run away from its shed and is grazing on neighbors' pastures, we need to bring it back to its shed. There are various ways we can try and bring it back to the shed. We could take a big stick and try and chase it back to its shed. But what will happen if you try and chase it? If you try and chase it towards its shed, it will run to the left or run to the right. It'll run anywhere but to its shed. So running around after it with a stick is a very it's a very unfruitful pastime. So Bhagavan said most other spiritual paths like yoga and so on, it's like trying to tame the mind, trying to tame the cow by running after it with a stick. Bhagavan said a much wiser strategy and a more effective strategy is not to try and chase the cow with a stick, but to take a nice bunch of green grass and slowly tempt it back to its shed. If you're going to follow this method, you need a great deal of patience, because the cow may follow you for some distance. Then it will become suspicious. Oh no, this fellow's trying to lead me back to my shed. I don't want to go there, so let me not follow. So the cow will hesitate and may even start going back. So we shouldn't at that time pick up the stick and try and chase it. No, we have to be patient. We have to give the cow a little bit of leeway. Let it go back a little way. And then again, we tempt it. So slowly, softly, gently, calmly, quietly, gradually, steadily, little by little, step by step. That is the meaning of Sane. In Tamil, Bhagavan translated that as mella, which it means the same. So this verse begins Sane, little by little, gradually, gently. So just to finish off about that analogy, Bhagavan said this path of Atma-vichara is like offering the cow the green grass. We're not trying to force the mind back within. We are slowly trying to cajole it back within. That's the approach we should take to this spiritual path. So Sane, Uparamed means we should hold back. Or uparamed, that is the verb uparam, means to cease from motion, to stop, to cease from action, to be inactive, to pause, to stop, to leave off, desist, give up, renounce. So slowly, we need to withdraw ourselves from activity is the idea. Uparamed, buddhya, by intellect, by an intelligent, a keen and intelligent mind is the idea. Dhīrañcēr, here it's translated, in one translation I'm seeing online, it's translated as carried by conviction. It's more than that. It's for dhritti means that firmness. We need to be firm. That is, we need to take a gentle but firm approach. We need gentle but firm perseverance is the idea. So that's the first two lines. So how Bhagavan has translated that in Tamil, the first two lines, is dhīrañcēr buddhiyiṇāl, cittattai mellamella, nēra seyavēṇḍum, niścalaṉa. What that means is dhīrañcēr buddhiyiṇāl. That means by intellect endowed with courage or firmness. So a courage-imbued intellect. Dhīrañcēr buddhiyiṇāl, cittattai means the mind, mellamella, slowly, gently, niścalaṉa, nēra seyavēṇḍum. It is necessary to make the mind achieve motionlessness gently by a courage-imbued intellect. So that's the idea in Sanskrit. Uparamed implies making it inactive. But how can we make it inactive? Slowly by a firm discriminating. That buddhi here implies discrimination. We need to have a keen discrimination. If we're foolish, we'll pick up the stick and start chasing the cow. That's counterproductive. We need to have firmness. We need to be patient, and we need to be very intelligent. If the cow wants to go away, okay, we be patient with the cow. Allow the cow to go away. So if the mind is playing mischief, let it go a little way. Then we slowly bring it back. That is the idea. And then the most important part of this verse is the last line. Atma samstam mana kritva na kinchitapi chintayat. Atma samstam mana kritva means make the mind fixed in oneself, or fixed on oneself. In other words, fix your attention on yourself. That Bhagavan translated in Tamil. Or in Tamil, there's another word, mārathaṉē. Mārathaṉē means a great charioteer. That is, Bhagavan added that word because Krishna is addressing this to Arjuna. But people say, oh, but Krishna is the charioteer. Why is he addressing Arjuna as a charioteer? Yes, at that particular time of the Bhagavad Gītā, Krishna was the charioteer and Arjuna was riding in the chariot. But as a great prince, a great warrior, one of the skills that a warrior requires is to be skillful in driving a chariot, because they need the chariot in times of war. So Arjuna was a great charioteer in his own right. So Bhagavan added this word, mārathaṉē, great charioteer. But there's also a metaphorical significance there. That is, why Krishna, what is the metaphorical significance of Krishna being the charioteer, is that the charioteer is the one who guides. He's the one who drives everything. So Krishna, or Bhagavan, is the charioteer of our life. But we also have to take some responsibility. We shouldn't, he is guiding us, but we have to follow his guidance. So we also have to be, in following his guidance, we are guiding ourselves, so to speak. So Arjuna is also a great charioteer. So we can read some meaning into that. But that's not the main point. The main point is the last two lines of the verse in Tamil are cittattai āṇmāvil cērttiḍuka maṭṟeduvu ittaṉaiyum eṇṇiḍādē. So atma samstam mana kritva, make the mind fixed in yourself or fixed on yourself. In other words, fix your attention on yourself is the implication. Bhagavan says in Tamil, cittattai āṇmāvil cērttiḍuka. That means, yes, it literally means that. It means fix the mind or make the mind fixed on yourself. And the mind here implies attention. So one thing to notice here is that this is the same, there's a very important sentence in nēra, in the 16th paragraph, where Bhagavan defines what is self-investigation. And the words are very, very similar. What Bhagavan says in nēra, sadakalamum manate āṇmāvil vētirapatkutān Atma-vicharam endrupaya. Sadakalamum means always. Manate āṇmāvil vētirapatku. Placing or fixing or keeping the mind fixed always in yourself. Mind here means attention. So in other words, keeping the attention always fixed on oneself, only to that is the name Atma-vichara. In other words, the name Atma-vichara refers only to always keeping the mind fixed on oneself. The same description is given here. Atma-samstam manakritva. Cittattai āṇmāvil cērttiḍuka. It means the same. So what Krishna is describing here is the practice of self-investigation, always keeping the mind always fixed on oneself. So he says, Atma-samstam manakritva, make the mind always fixed in yourself, or making the mind always fixed in yourself. Na kinchitapi chintayat. Na means not. Kinchit, anything else at all. Api, even anything else at all. Chintayat. One should not think of anything else at all. So making the mind fixed in oneself, one should not think of anything at all. In Tamil, Bhagavan says the same. Cittattai āṇmāvil cērttiḍuka. Fix the mind on yourself, on Atman. Na kinchitapi chintayat. In Tamil he says, maṭṟeduvu ittaṇaiyum eṇṇiḍādē. Maṭṟeduvu means anything else at all. Ittaṇaiyum, even in the slightest extent, eṇṇiḍādē, do not think. So do not think of anything else at all. So this is the practice of self-investigation. That doesn't mean that we should be trying to avoid thinking. All we need to do is to fix our mind on ourselves. If our mind is fixed on ourselves, there'll be no room for any other thoughts to arise, because thoughts can arise only if we attend to them. So if our entire attention is fixed on ourselves, we are thereby avoiding thinking of anything else. So the principal aim is keeping the mind fixed in ourselves, thereby not thinking of anything else. That's very important. So the crucial thing is keeping our mind fixed on ourselves. This is the practice of Atma-vichara. So Krishna describes here beautifully the practice of Atma-vichara is keeping our mind always fixed on ourselves. And in order to do that, we're not able to do that at first. When we start off, our mind keeps on going outwards towards other things. That is the very nature of the mind. So we need steady, patient perseverance. So mellamella, sane, gradually, we need to try to bring the mind to a state of motionlessness. How do we bring it to a state of motionlessness? Only by fixing our attention on ourselves. Because what we actually are is just pure being. Pure being never does anything. It is unmoving. It is achala. So we need to come to that state of achalatvam, of motionlessness, by fixing our mind on ourselves. That is the implication of this verse. So there are some people who say, oh, what's this? Ramana Maharshi taught this Atma-vichara. That's not proper Atma-vichara. Atma-vichara means studying all the texts and doing all the prakriyas. There's no authority in the sastras for this method that Ramana Maharshi taught. Well, here very clearly Krishna has given this. And in his commentary on this verse, Adi Shankara concludes his commentary on this verse by saying, this is the highest instruction about yoga. In other words, the implication is this is the ultimate practice of yoga. This is the highest of all spiritual practices. As Bhagavan said in verse 8 of Upadesha Anaitinam Uttamam, it is the best among all. What did he call the best among all? In verse 8 of Upadesha is Ananya Bhava. Ananya Bhava means meditating on what is not other, with the understanding that he is I. In other words, meditating on what is not other means meditating only on oneself. In other words, self-attentiveness. So according to Bhagavan, that is the highest of all spiritual practices. And according to Krishna, the instruction that is given here is the highest instruction about yoga. It amounts to saying the same thing. So this is an extremely important verse. And the fact that this verse is there in the Bhagavad Gītā, this shows that Gita has something for everyone. There are so many different teachings are given in Bhagavad Gītā because it's a text meant to suit people at different stages of spiritual development. So there's something for everyone in the Bhagavad Gītā. Some people interpret the Bhagavad Gītā as a manual of karma yoga. And from their point of view, that is correct. Karma yoga is taught there. Others say it teaches bhakti yoga. It teaches devotion to Krishna. Yes, that's also there. Others say, no, it means only, it's a jnana text. Yes, that's also there. It's got something of everything for everyone. But as far as jnana is concerned, Krishna expresses it perfectly here. That's why Bhagavan selected this verse. And the next verse continues the same idea. Because when we try to do this, when we try to fix our mind on ourselves, what happens? We're saying, I'll just get the next verse, 26. So what happens when we try to fix our mind on ourselves? As we all know from our own experience, the mind wanders away. The nature of the mind is wandering. So that is what Krishna talks about in the next. Krishna anticipates our difficulty. So he talks about that in the next verse. Yato niścalati manas chanchalam astiram. That means yata. Wherever, or to whatever it goes, niścalati, becomes agitated, manaha, the mind, chanchalam, flickering, astiram, unsteady. That is he's describing here the nature of the mind. So wherever the mind wanders, being unsteady and flickering, tatastato. That means from that, niyama, withdrawing or restraining it from that. So wherever it may wander, restraining it from that. Etat, this atmani in oneself. Eva, certainly vasam. Control nayat. We must bring from wherever the mind is wandering. We must withdraw it from that and bring it back under the sway of ourself. Under the sway of ourself means we hold on to ourself and thereby don't allow ourselves to be swayed by any vasanas. So Bhagavan says the same, translates this in Tamil as eduvum tirumindri endrum ale chittum edu edane patri ahum. That means eduvum tirumindri means without any steadiness at all. Whatever the mind which is always wavering without any steadiness, chittum eduvum edane. Edu edane. So that is whatever it grasps. So whatever the mind which is always wavering without any steadiness grasps. So edu edane, whatever it grasps means it means whatever it grasps. That the word is repeated for emphasis, like in the Sanskrit, Krishna says yato, whatever. It's a way of giving, that is the nature of mind. Being unsteady by nature, the mind is always wavering. Endramale, Bhagavan says. It's ever wavering. because it has no steadiness. So it will be constantly grasping this or that. So whatever the mind, which is always wavering without any steadiness, grasps, and wherever it consequently wanders, wanders is ale means one. Wait a second. Or ahum, I think ahum means wandering. So it's grasping and wandering. So from whatever it's grasping and wandering, drawing the mind back from that, adinindru, from that, etu, drawing it, pulling it back from that, under cittattai, that mind, epodum, always, Atma-vichara, on oneself or in oneself, cērttiḍuka, joining, dhīram urave, say, that is, make it, drawing the mind back from that and fixing it on yourself, make it always steady. So this is the practical application. When we try to fix our mind in it ourselves, it will inevitably, under the sway of its vasanas, be wandering off here and there, trying to grasp this, trying to grasp that. This is the nature of the mind. We shouldn't be disheartened by this. All that is required is patient perseverance. However many times the mind wanders away towards other things, we need to bring it back and fix it in ourselves. How to bring it back? Bhagavan gave us a very nice clue. That is, when our mind wanders away towards anything else, those other things are appearing in our awareness. So Bhagavan says, whatever may appear in our awareness, to whom does it appear? It appears to me. So we draw our attention back to ourselves. That doesn't mean that Bhagavan is saying that we have to question to whom, but wherever the mind may wander, we need to turn it back towards ourselves, the one to whom all those other things appear. So other things appear only in the view of ego. So we need to draw our attention back towards this ego to see what is the reality of this ego. Who am I? So in these two verses, Krishna has beautifully expressed the practice of Atma-vichara exactly as Bhagavan taught it. So Bhagavan selected these verses and included them in this selection of 42 verses. And as I say, Krishna's, Adi Shankara says about this is the highest instruction about yoga. Just like Bhagavan says in verse 8 of Upadesha, this is the best among all, meaning it's the most effective means to purify the mind, and it's the only means to eradicate ego. So in these two verses, the practice of self-investigation is described beautifully by Krishna. If you read translations by others, you will often find that many of the interpreters, they take Atman to mean God, and they say, fix your mind in God. Others will say, fix your mind on the self with a capital S. But that is not what Krishna means. Atman does not mean the self. It means oneself. It means ourself, myself. So but because Krishna is addressing it, he says, if we can take Atman in this context as you, as yourself. Fix your mind in yourself is the essence of the teaching of both these verses. That is the one thing these two verses share in common is the central message is our aim is to fix our mind on ourselves, to fix our attention on ourselves, to be self-attentive. So we're not trying to fix our attention on some big self with a capital S. It is ourself as we are, this very self here. And I am Atma Brahman, as it said in the Upanishad, one of the Mahavakyas. This very self is Brahman. It's not saying the self as if that is, as soon as we add in the definite article, the self, we are objectifying it or reifying it. And when we put a capital S, we are then distinguishing. There are two selves. There's this little self and that big self. There are no two self. There's only one self. That one self is ourself. We need to fix our attention on ourself. If we fix our attention on ourself, now we may seem to be ego, but by fixing our attention on ourself, we see what we actually are. We seem to be ego because we're attending to other things. If instead of attending to other things, we attend to ourselves, the adjuncts will drop off because we're no longer holding them, And we ourselves alone will remain as the pure awareness that we actually are. That is, ego is the pure I am mixed and conflated with adjuncts. But who is holding on to whom? As Bhagavan says in verse 25 of Buddhiyiṉāṭ about ego, he describes ego as a formless phantom, and he says, Urupatri undam, grasping form, it comes into existence. Urupatri nikkum, grasping form, it stands. Urupatri undu mika ongum, grasping and feeding on forms, it flourishes abundantly. Uruvittu urupatram, leaving form, it grasps form. So the nature of ego is always to grasp form, always grasp things other than itself. And the first thing it grasps is a body consisting of 5 sheaths, which it takes to be I. So who is grasping whom? Are these 5 sheaths grasping us, or are we grasping the 5 sheaths? It is we who are grasping the 5 sheaths. So if instead of grasping the 5 sheaths, if we try to grasp ourselves, by trying to grasp ourselves, we're thereby letting go of the 5 sheaths. So the 5 sheaths will drop off because we're no longer holding them, and we alone will remain. That's why in the next sentence of verse 25 of Buddhiyiṉāṭ, after saying about coming into existence, grasping form, standing, grasping form, etc., Bhagavan then says, Tēdināl otam pidikam. If sought, it takes flight. That means if ego, instead of grasping other things, tries to grasp itself, if it tries to see who am I, if it tries to grasp itself, it will take flight. That means it'll run away. It'll subside and dissolve back into its source is the implication. So all that is required, that is, all Bhagavan's teachings can be summarized in the words of Krishna as Atma-samstam manakritva, or in Bhagavan's own words, cittattai āṇmāvil cērttiḍuka. This is the path that Bhagavan has taught us. That is in verse 27 of Bhagavad Gītā Sāram. That's a translation of verse 25 of chapter 6. Bhagavan says, cittattai āṇmāvil cērttiḍuka. Fix the mind in yourself. And in the next verse, he says, Atma-vichara epodum tiramindri urabise. Fixing mind in yourself, or cittattai, withdrawing the mind from other things, fixing it in yourself, make it be always steady. So how can we make the mind steady? Only by fixing it in ourselves. So this is the very simple practice that Bhagavan has taught us. If we do this, nothing else is required. As Bhagavan says in the 11th paragraph of Nāna, Oruvan tan sarupate adeyam varayal. Until one attains one's real nature, nirantara swarupa smaranaye kai patruvanayin adu andre podam. That means until one attains swarupa, if one clings, if one holds fast to unbroken swarupa smarana. Swarupa smarana means self-remembrance. In other words, holding on to that remembrance of our own being. If we hold on to that, that alone is sufficient. So what he calls here as holding on to swarupa smarana is what is described there as fixing the mind in ourselves, fixing our attention on ourselves. Atma-samstam manakritva, na kinchitapi chintayet. That is, by holding on to ourselves firmly, we don't think of anything else whatsoever. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Thank you, Michael. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, all thanks to Bhagavan. It's Bhagavan's teachings are phenomenal.
Yes, truly.
And they bring an end to all phenomena, along with the one who sees all the phenomena.